Hey guys, Liam leis an céad episode to Botún no Go. Hopefully, by this stage, whether it be on the Facebook, the YouTube, Spotify, but somewhere you've come across the big news that we put out today that we have now launched our Learn Irish Online membership via Patreon. So Botún no Go is going to be a Patreon show every week from next week onwards, basically, and this week it's also available there and will be available exclusively there to members. But for this week only, we're putting out all the Patreon shows also for free on YouTube and on the Spotify. So you can kind of check out and get a feel for what would be involved if you were a member. I'll leave all the links for the membership down below and for everything else you need to know it. And also check out the kind of announcement video I've also put on this channel. If you're watching on the Patreon, a big thank you for getting involved so early, and shows like Botún no Go hopefully will be a really big kind of helping hand to you in improving your Irish, maybe learning Irish completely or just polishing it up a small bit here and there. So regardless of what your level is, this show especially should help you. So what is Botún no Go? Very simple, guys. All I'm going to be doing is basically each week, whenever this podcast is going to be coming out or this video is going to be coming out, I'm just going to be talking you through 4 or 5 of the kind of biggest and most common and most important mistakes that I've seen being made that week. So whether it be mistakes I've seen my students make, whether it be mistakes I've seen in terms of people writing online in different Facebook groups or whatever, whether it be mistakes I see even on TG Cahir or YouTube from non-native speakers or even native speakers sometimes. I really want to stress, I'm in no way kind of being really strict on the grammar and saying Irish has to be spoken like this. There's enough people out there, and it's something I'm really against actually, is this kind of mindset of Irish can only be spoken the way it was 50 or 60 years ago or even longer ago, and it should only be spoken in this dialect. I think there's a load of different ways to speak Irish, and the Irish I speak is very different to the Irish a lot of native speakers or older people would speak, for example, and that's fine. I'm just going to be looking at mistakes in these videos that are mistakes whatever way you look at them, and are mistakes that are really easily fixed, but maybe just a lot of people haven't heard kind of simple logic behind them, or maybe a lot of other teachers just haven't been able to explain the simple logic that can kind of fix them. And if you fix all these mistakes that we go through every episode, then it will make your Irish a lot more fluent. And yeah, as I said, they're quite easy to adjust, but they make a big difference in terms of your level of fluency and your confidence in the language. So, as I always say, no better way to explain it than to actually just get into it. First one, guys, is má ní. So these are all mistakes I've kind of seen over the last week or 10 days. Má ní. So what's wrong here? Well, essentially anytime you have a ní directly after má, it's incorrect. Okay, so má meaning if. I know word for word, it makes a lot of sense. Let's say if I'm saying, if she didn't speak, I'm going, okay, má, if. She didn't speak is ní labhraíonn she, so I'll just put the two together, má ní labhraíonn she. But unfortunately, that won't work here, because má means if, provided we're not using it with the Mochanealach, in which case it'll be dá. But in this case, let's just say it's non-Mochanealach, so it's má. But if in the negative is going to be muna or mura. You can say both actually, they're both the exact same, it's just a dialectical difference. I say muna myself. So let's say if I'm saying, if she didn't speak, muna labhraíonn she. Okay, so we can't say má ní. The má and the ní essentially come together, if we think about it like a maths equation, to equal muna. Same idea for go and ní as well, on a similar kind of point. Go and ní can never come together. There'll never be a point when you're speaking Irish and you say go ní and it'll be correct. It always has to be knock instead. Okay, knock instead of go ní. So in other words, that in the negative is knock, and if in the negative is má. Okay, second one, moving on here, is we've got what to use for the conditional when asking a question. Do we use on or do we use er? And this isn't so much a mistake, it's more so just a topic people have trouble with. It all depends on what type of verb you're using. If you're using a normal verb, the good news is we'll just use our default help word for a question, which is on. Okay, so to give you an example, would you do something for me on Yen Fa Rodegan Dum? Okay, so we're using the on, almost as if it's just a present tense question. But there's a reason why so many people think it's air, and that's because in the Mochanílacht with the is verbs, it will be the air. So what do I mean by that? Well, a really simple example would be, let's say is matlam being an is verb. If I say would you like, watlat glena ishka, okay, would you like a glass of water? So with the Mochanílacht, when asking a question, it's going to be on if it's a normal verb. It's going to be air if it's one of the is ones, like is farlum, is matlum, is bralum. Okay. Next one, number 3, we've got 5 in total, so don't worry, it's not going to be too long a video. Yes, in I. Okay, in I. The big problem here, guys, you might know in I as to mean against, and it does, but people kind of forget when using it in different ways what it actually means word for word. Okay, so I, just like my face, means face. Even in this context of against, it still means face. It's in the face of. So, if you think of something to do with sports, let's say Chelsea in I Liverpool, Chelsea against Liverpool. A lot of people just directly think of an I as against and kind of sub it straight in from English. But if you think about what you're actually saying, Chelsea and I Liverpool, you're saying Chelsea in the face of Liverpool. Almost like we say in English with Chelsea are facing off against Liverpool. They're face to face against them. Now, why is that important? You can say, well, it doesn't really matter, how we think about it. Either way, it's going to be Chelsea and I Liverpool. Yep, fair enough. But then what if you have to say, you are playing against me, for example, or against me, you, her, anytime we're putting one of the pronouns after against. We can't say in I may or in I misha. The reason why is because then it becomes possessive. Think about it, you are playing against me. So it's you are playing in my face, essentially, or in the face of me. But we don't want to say in the face of me. In the same way, we don't want to say the dog of me. We want to say my dog, my face. So therefore, you are playing against me. Tatu gimmert ima I. I am playing against you. Tomisha gimmert it I. Okay, so we can't just put the pronoun after like we would if we were naming the person. We have to put it before. Okay, and we have to say ima I, it I. We have to use our possessive pronoun. So that catches a few people out. Again, doesn't come up too often, but when it does, if you can get it right, it makes a big difference. 2 more. Igoni. Igoni used for a few things. This is where the problem comes in. Let's set something straight from the off. Igoni means always. Okay, now you might be thinking, well, I've heard something similar to that for live, Tommy McConey or Toshitson in Igoni. Okay, yeah. Where the link is there is it comes back from, let's say, Igoni is always, in other words, habitually. Something is always happening, it's habitually happening, and that's where the link with the word is. Because if I'm saying Tommy imokoni, I am saying essentially I am in my habitat. Imokoni isn't the verb to live because it's not a verb. So you see the same thing with in I. It's about thinking, what are we actually saying word for word in Irish? So imokoni is kind of in my habitat, so igoni is habitually or always. So that's that. Igoni is just always. We can forget about that for a sec. But where the issue comes in is people struggling to say they live in Australia, we live here, she lives in Spain, changing it from person to person. So again, just thinking about what you're saying. And always with these, it's easiest to just go back to the first person, present tense, positive, as simple a form as you can get. Tommy imokoni sa Spain. I live in Spain. So again, just focusing on the imokoni bit. What am I actually saying? I'm in my residence or in my habitat, basically in Spain. So therefore, we need to transfer it over from person to person. So if I'm saying you're living in Spain, I'm not going to say tatu imokoni or tatu inokoni, tatu idokoni. Okay, it gets tougher as you go on, but then he lives in Spain, ta she inokoni with CH. She lives tashi inokoni with no H, because again it's possessive, we're using the ina, in his, in her, and then inar goni with the with the G, iwer goni, and also inagoni for they live. So just remembering what you're actually saying, that we need to say there in their habitat, in our habitat, and then the kind of knock-on effect it has in terms of the shevus and the ers. And then last one, guys, is putting something like is fadrulum in the past or the future, or trying to do it when the mistake here is that you can't really. Okay, so if you ever watch my video on the YouTube about the copula, I think it's Made Easy number 4, I talk a lot about how with the is, there's no real future form of it. Okay, it's tough to put is into the future. It's tough, it's impossible. There's no way of doing it, of putting is into the future. So in that video, more so talks about, you know, is far may or is buhul may, kind of using it as a verb, the verb to be. But what about the is verbs then, like is matlum, and in this case, going to look at is feidrulum in particular. How do we put them in the future? Well, the key is we just have to find another way to do it. Now, with is feidr, the best way to do it, and funnily enough, you have the same thing in English. Just test you out here. Think about this. How do we put can in the future in English? So present tense, I can read a book, but how do I say that in the future? You might be thinking either, oh, there's no way of doing it, because there's not with the verb can, because it's a modal verb. Or you might have thought, I'd say I will be able. So just the same in Irish, by me in on, or by me able to. You can say either or. Okay, and actually normally in the past tense we do this as well, because you might remember is in the past is bu, so you could say befeidrulum, but that's also what it is in the conditional. And in general with these is verbs, we don't use bu to communicate the past too much, or not too many people do it, because you get a bit of confusion then with the conditional, because they're basically identical. So often easier just to say vi me in on as well for I was able to, or I suppose in English that would be I could. But again, in English, it's often just done with able in the past as well. Okay. And that is all 5, actually. I thought that was all. Yeah, it is all 5. Apologies. So hopefully that was fairly simple, guys. Again, just a quick video. That's the idea of these. One you can listen to or watch pretty quickly, but gain a lot of critical kind of information in relation to the Irish. Today's mistakes, kind of slightly smaller ones. So, you know, again, don't worry if you're making these mistakes the whole time or you didn't even realize there were mistakes. That's fine. That's what these videos are for. And don't be getting hung up on the mistakes. This video is just, again, something to help you and to kind of remind you, if you can remember to kind of clean up 1 or 2 things here and there, it will make a big difference to your Irish. And again, hopefully 6 or 7 kind of videos into this series will have 30 or 35 common mistakes, and again, if you can clean all of them up, it'll make a massive difference to your level of grammar and a massive difference to how much you're getting right and wrong when speaking as Gaeilge. So that's it, guys. As I said, next week this will be exclusively on the Patreon, or next time we do an episode like this, so hopefully I'll be seeing you over there. Have a good week, have a good weekend. Slán go fóill, slán agus beannacht.